Hello, my name's Roger, and welcome to the Uncommon Knowledge Children's Series. And I'd like to tell you a story about a girl called Ellie, who lived on a little island with her mother and father, where they kept sheep and grew their own vegetables, and where the whole island was Ellie's playground. Now this is a special kind of story, one that it's best to listen to with your eyes closed, and if you listen really carefully, you'll find something quite magical starts to happen, where you feel like you're going on an amazing adventure in your imagination, just like when you dream a really wonderful dream at night. So if you haven't closed your eyes yet, close them now, and just imagine you're flying over an island right now, like you're a seabird, gliding through the air. Feel the air rushing past your wings, hearing the wind in your ears, and imagine seeing the rocks where the waves are breaking, the sheep happily munching at the grass, way down there. And if you look carefully, you'll see a little girl running through the grass, pulling a kite behind her, laughing as it soars up into the air. And when Ellie went to sleep each night, she counted sheep in her mind. And there's a really funny way that some shepherds count their sheep, special old words they use, and Ellie had learned these words. And when she counted the first 5, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like you or I might say, she said to herself, Jan, Tan, Tether, Mether, Pip, using the old words of the shepherds. And as she said each of those special old words to herself, she drifted into a dream of sheep jumping through the air in slow motion. And you know what it's like just before you drift off to sleep, when your breathing becomes sleepy and slow, and you yawn and curl up and get nice and cozy, and how your arms and hands can feel nice and sleepy, how your legs and feet can feel nice and sleepy, how your bed and pillow can feel nice and sleepy. And as Ellie whispered to herself, Jan, Tan, Tether, Mether, Pip, and saw those sheep slowly jumping over a wall in her mind, one after the other, she drifted into a wonderful dream, feeling nice and cozy and sleepy. And one thing about growing up on an island is that the world on the mainland can feel very busy and loud. And when Ellie was old enough to go to school, her father took her each morning on their little motorboat to the mainland, riding across the waves, feeling the salty spray of the sea against their faces, and there Ellie started going to the local school. But Ellie really wasn't used to the busyness and the noise of the school. So many loud children, with all these letters, words, and numbers to learn. Her teacher, Mrs. Hill, was very nice, but Ellie missed the peace of her island. She missed her sheep, and being able to run and play with her kite. And she couldn't wait until school was over, and she could get back in the boat and go back home to the peace of her island. And one day, when they were getting in their boat, Ellie said to her father, Dad, I don't want to go to school today. And her dad said, Why is that, Ellie? And she said, Because it's so noisy and busy and I don't know how to do the things they want me to do. And her dad said, That's exactly how I felt when I was a boy, Ellie. I grew up on this island, and I remember how busy and noisy I found it when I went into town on the mainland. But you do get used to it, you know. And Ellie said, No, Dad, I really don't want to go to school. And Ellie's mum came down to the boat and gave Ellie a cuddle, and she said, Ellie, children have to go to school, but we'll speak to your teacher, Mrs. Hill, and see what she can do to help you feel better. And Ellie said, Mum, I mean it. I really, really, really don't want to go. And so her dad said, Ellie, do you know, when I was a boy and I was worried about school, there was a special story that Grandad told me, and it really helped me. Would you like to hear it? And Ellie nodded, and her dad said, Well, let's get in the boat and we can take the long way to the mainland. We'll go past the sea caves and the puffins on the cliffs, and as we go I'll tell you the whole story. Deal? And Ellie replied, Deal. So her dad started up the boat and began his tale. Many years ago, your granddad was an explorer who adventured through jungles and the rainforests, searching for ancient artifacts, and he made some amazing discoveries about the way people lived thousands of years ago. And your granddad always said to me, "It's sometimes scary being an explorer. People say I'm brave going off on these long adventures, but I'll tell you a secret. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. Being brave means you keep going, even though you're scared. You hold your head up high, even when there are butterflies in your stomach, and you choose to do it anyway." There have been spooky, ancient temples I've explored where I was too scared to go in through the door at first, but the discoveries I made in those temples have changed our understanding of history. They've become part of the history books, and it was so worth it. You know, one story I heard on my adventures was about a young lion who'd been on a long journey and was now making his way back to his pride. And the lion had never seen his own reflection, and he was crossing a desert, desperately thirsty. He so needed to drink, but there was only one pool of water in the whole desert, and as he approached it, he saw another ferocious-looking lion looking back at him, there beneath the water, and he backed away, scared of what he saw. But such was his thirst that he forced himself to go back, and he snarled at the lion in the water, and this powerful lion in the water snarled back at him, so he retreated away again. But he said to himself, "You've got to be brave. I know it's scary, but you need to do this, and you'll feel better once you've done it." And so he forced himself to go to the water one more time. He saw the scary lion looking up at him, but he plunged his mouth into the water, and as he did so, the other lion disappeared, and so did his fear. And he quenched his thirst, drinking the refreshing water, feeling so much better, and he realized that the ferocious lion in the water was actually him. And he said to himself, "I see now, all that bravery, all that power is in you. You are the one that's brave and strong." And he felt ready to continue his journey, feeling strong and brave. And my granddad told me that he often thought of this story whenever he was doing something scary, that you'll feel better once you've done it, and that you can beat fear. You can overcome it. It's like we all have a scared bit of us that would prefer to keep everything quiet and safe, and then we all have an adventurous side to us that wants to learn, to make new friends, to go on adventures. And then Ellie's dad took the boat past the magical sea caves, where the water glows green in the sunlight, and where Ellie once thought she saw a mermaid gliding beneath the waves. And then they passed the cliffs where the puffins nest, and Ellie waved up at them, and they finally arrived at the mainland. And Ellie's dad said, "Let me go and have a word with Mrs. Hill, and then you can decide what you want to do." But Ellie had already decided. She thought of her granddad, the explorer, and how he was sometimes scared, but if he'd stayed at home, he'd never have had all those adventures. She thought of the lion choosing to be brave, to drink the water, and who said to himself, "You're that strong and brave lion in the water. It's you. You are the strong and brave one." And just as Ellie's dad decided to choose to be brave when he was a boy, even though he came from a quiet island, he decided to choose to be a brave explorer, to learn new things, to meet new people, to make good friends. So Ellie made her choice. She held her head high like a brave lion, and she chose to go into school like a brave explorer, like a brave adventurer. And that day Mrs. Hill said they were going to be learning about farmers and shepherds. And she asked the class if anyone knew how shepherds counted their sheep in olden times. And Ellie excitedly put her hand in the air and she said, "I do, I know." and she proudly recited the old words, Yan, Tan, Tether, Mether, Pip, and Mrs. Hill was astonished. And Ellie taught these words to the other children in the class, and it became a playground chant that they, Ellie and her friends, began saying together, counting pretend sheep, Yan, Tan, Tether, Mether, Pip, and they all laughed together as they did so. And Ellie came home that day with a big grin on her face. She and her dad got off the boat, and Ellie ran to her mum and gave her a big hug. And she said, Mum, I had a really great day today, and guess what? Next week we're going to be learning about explorers. I want to be an explorer when I grow up. And her mum hugged her back, and then Ellie ran and picked up the kite and went out to play, running across the grass, laughing as her kite soared up into the air, watching it happily flying way up into the air, soaring up over their family island. And that's the end of this story. You listened to that really well, and the magic of this story will continue to work deep inside you like a special power each and every day, and that can feel very good. So until next time, goodbye for now.